party tonight! TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else!
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes,
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuit!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Pearson and Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is Supergirl. Brought to you by the good people at Berlanti Productions, DC Entertainment, Warner Brothers Television, Warner Brothers Television Distribution, the CW Network, and, for at least one season, CBS. Joining me this evening is the Supergirl herself, the queen of animation and all things teen and in between. Ladies and gentlemen from Honeysuckle Rose Creations, it's Alexis Hejna, resident girl. Come on down.
When did I become the expert on resident on teen and everything in between? I mean, I'm not even the youngest person on this show.
When I decided you were.
Great.
Everybody gets a thing. Listen, Pat.
I thought my thing was animation nut and nuts about corgi butts.
You can hang on to the nuts about corgi butts thing all you want, but listen, Mac. I'm like the Vince McMahon of this outfit. You get the gimmick I give you. That's how Pat. That's how Pat became the punchy pugilist.
I thought he was the protocol son.
No, that's Jason. Shut up, you. Quiet. All right.
I can't keep track of everyone else's nicknames.
So here's the deal. We're talking Supergirl tonight, and we've done one of these CW reviews for Arrow. We did whatever the season they were up to at the time, and then we talked a little bit about the preceding seasons. We did a one-season review of Legends of Tomorrow. We did the season of Flash, where they did Flashpoint. So the only ones we haven't done yet are Black Lightning, Supergirl, and Batwoman. Batwoman will be next week.
I like to call the Flashpoint season the season of Damn It, Barry!
Yes, well, there's a lot of Damn It, Barry going on in the Flash. But like I said, we don't do these every year because usually when the world is working, by the time these all end, I've got other summer movies to deal with, and so I just can't commit weeks on end to trying to do all the reviews for all the seasons all the time. So I kind of just pick a year, and like this is the year we're going to focus on this. And I have been wanting to talk about Supergirl for a while, because inside Alexis Hejna, I'm just a girl in the world. Don't speak. I know just what you're going to say. Now listen. I really like the That's right. I really like Supergirl. I have since the beginning. I loved the first season on CBS, especially the pilot episode. But most of the people I tend to do podcasts with don't go near this thing with a 10-foot pole. So I said,
well, you mentioned Supergirl, and all of a sudden we remember Helen Slater jumping out of a lake bone dry and using her heat vision to open a pretty flower.
Yeah, my daughter had real issues with the coming out of the lake bone dry thing, but we'll talk about that on Thursday. In any case, Supergirl's not a perfect show, and we're going to talk about what happened this season. That there was a lot of head scratching going on. Wait, what? Why are they? Wait, what? But the road to season 5, of course, starts with season 1, and you didn't watch any of this. We didn't get into this on source material. We reviewed Being Super on the previous podcast. I never got a chance to ask you, have you read much Supergirl?
No, I have not. But in all fairness, Supergirl has not gotten a lot of fair treatment, I would say, in the books, considering that killing her off in Crisis on Infinite Earths was like the catalyst for that whole series, and she did not appear in any decent books for quite some time. Not to mention, I'm sorry, if you want to talk pre-Crisis Supergirl, there's the one where she marries a horse, and there's the one where she and Clark discuss how they want to get married even though they're cousins, and a lot of discussing other shit like that. Yeah, I mean, Supergirl is a fun character, but the fact is that for the longest time, she was either dead or they had no freaking clue what to do with her.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be honest, I didn't read much Supergirl either. I started getting into the Supergirl stuff with the New 52, The Last Daughter of Krypton, which they do a loose interpretation of, I believe, in Season 3, with Rain and the other World Destroyers, which we'll talk about shortly. But other than that, I haven't read much Supergirl myself. I've got a couple of trades sitting on my shelf that I need to pour through, some of which are in the New 52 iteration, and some of which are prior to that. Something I picked up from Ollie's called Supergirl Power. But
now, I will actually. Have you seen the new DC Superhero Girls, the one that was developed by Lauren Faust? It's on Netflix.
No. Hang on. Is it the one where Wonder Woman's in pants and the Bumblebee character is a black gal? She's in there, and it's the one where they're all like in a school.
Yes and no. There are two versions of DC Supergirls. One is where they all use the exact same character model for each one of them, and it is disturbing as hell.
Is that the ones where it's like maybe 5-minute shorts?
Yes.
Okay, that's the one I've seen, and my daughter has seen, and she's got a couple of the trades from that series.
Okay, there's one on Netflix, and it's been developed by Lauren Faust. She's the one who developed My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, the latest edition of MLP. And it shows, because these are much more developed characters. It's Batgirl, Zatanna, Bumblebee, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and Supergirl. It's a lot better, a lot funnier, a lot better animation, and Supergirl is awesome in it. She's essentially Rainbow Dash. And frankly, I think your daughter's going to love it. Like I said, it's on Netflix. You really should show it to her. I would love to hear what she thinks of it.
I will. So, as I said, I didn't watch Arrow in it first. We're going to change gears here with the CW shows. I didn't watch Arrow when that started. I don't really care about Green Arrow. I know, heresy. The late, great Larry Zonka was big into that show, and he would talk about it periodically when he wasn't talking about wrestling. And I was like, yeah, I don't care. It's Batman with a bow and arrow. Who gives a shit? But then
That's actually the main reason Green Arrow didn't get a lot of fame for a while, because when they talked about what to do with him, everyone said it's literally Batman, without the cape.
Right. And I feel like that's what CW wanted to do, was a Batman show. They're like, well, you can't. So like, fuck it, we'll just do Green Arrow and we'll make him Batman.
Bat embargo.
Yes. So, but then The Flash came out, and The Flash I actually was interested in. And I realized that I had to watch Arrow in order to understand what was happening in Flash. Flash begot Legends of Tomorrow, which the first season is a chore, but every season after that is amazing. And it's my favorite of the CW shows. Around the same time is when they did Supergirl on CBS, and then after one season of that, they were like, let's port this over to the CW. Black Lightning came along. I watched the first season of that while I was doing cancer treatment last summer. I just watched I binged the whole season, and I gotta sit down and watch season 2 at some point, because I like the show. It's just not one of those I feel the need to watch extemporaneously, as it's going on, like I do with Legends. And then Batwoman came out, and I was like, well, all right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to commit to this show. We'll talk about that next week. What's your quick 50-word or less history with the CW shows?
I started watching a little bit of Arrow when it got onto Netflix, but I took a break because a lot of the supporting cast in Arrow Season 1 are some of the worst actors ever. I'm sorry, the chick who plays Huntress literally made my ears bleed.
Yeah, she's a little pitchy dog.
Oh, God, she was so bad. And so I took a break, but then, unfortunately, when I started it back up, Flash and Legends Tomorrow and all these other shows were coming out, and it was a little daunting, I'm like, wait, which do I watch first? What order do I watch? I hate to say it, but maybe there is, but I haven't searched. But there should be a website that actually says, new to the Arrowverse, here's how you watch it. Like all these people who want to start watching the Marvel movies, or want to start playing the Legend of Zelda games but don't know where to start. It's like, okay, start here, do this, watch this, take a breather, watch this, go get alcohol, do this.
All right. So the first season of Supergirl, which you did not watch, you watched this because, in preparation for the show, but you did not feel compelled to watch any season of Supergirl until I twisted your arm and made you do this show, correct?
Correct. Again, I was interested in it, but I was worried that if I started watching it, I was going to be lost because I didn't know how much they were going to do an offshoot of the other series. And then I remember us joking about Crisis on Infinite Earths when we reviewed the book, and I said, oh yeah, give it a year, they'll do an adaptation. And literally less than 2 weeks after that, they pulled it out, and I was like, I know it, I called it.
All right, so the initial season debuts on CBS October 26, 2015. It ran for roughly 20 episodes. And the first, it ended April 18th, 2016, and then after that, starting with Season 2, it was ported over to the CW. The first season, the major villains here are, the arc of this thing is essentially, you've got, this is how Supergirl becomes Supergirl, so they point a little bit at Superman existing in this world, and him finding her and setting her up with a human family, but they don't really go back to him until later seasons. This is where they set up the DEO, which is essentially their FBI for aliens. They set up the relationship with the sister. They introduce, over the course of a series of episodes, Martian Manhunter. We get a character from the Superman lore in Jimmy Olsen, who's the hunky, this time he's like a hunky 6-foot-some-odd black man, played by, I believe it's, who's the actor? Mehcad Brooks. Again, the villain of... They kind of do a villain of the week thing, and their framing device for it is essentially this prison that Supergirl's mother set up. And so all of these alien beings who did bad things ended up in this prison called Fort Roz, which somehow landed on Earth. And the monsters of the week are all like escapees from Fort Roz that they got to put back in the box again. So there's that. I forget who else was the villain in this thing. There was a big overall villain in this, and I can't remember if it's like her. I think it's her aunt, isn't it?
It's sort of, it's her aunt, but she died. Aunt. Oh my God, she dies midway through the season, and then the main villain after that is her aunt's, I guess, lover, partner, general. I don't remember exactly.
Okay, another Kryptonian.
Yeah, another Kryptonian, and that's when he breaks out the Omega Hedron, and the rest of us go, oh my God, I thought we buried that after the 84 movie, and we agreed never to speak of it again.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, when I saw him spinning that thing in his hand exactly like the series, I was like, you actually found a way to incorporate that stupid thing?
A lesser antagonist is played by... is Cat Grant, who is played by Callista Flockhart, and she's Supergirl's boss. She's also found a way to bribe the producers of the show to keep an Instagram filter on her at all times. Tell me I'm not the only one who noticed that. She does shine, doesn't she?
She's serious. I mean, it's not like she's got blurry romantic vision on her, but I'm looking going, her skin does not look right. It looks like there's an extra layer on it or something. Callista Flockhart, well, not my cup of tea, personally. I know she's a very beautiful woman, you know, when she doesn't look like she's going to slip through a crack in the floor. But I just remember looking at her going, sweetie, you should not have skin that perfect. Something is off here. It looked way too much like when my mother tries to take selfies on Instagram. It's like, Mom, we know what you're doing.
We get a crossover with The Flash this season called World's Finest. That's episode 18. So, all right. So you have Cat Grant, like I said, who's basically a foil for the human side of Supergirl, who's Kara Danvers. And then you have these two Kryptonians and Fort Roz, which make up a larger part of the Supergirl antagonists throughout the season. The first couple episodes mainly deal with her getting the costume, figuring out what a Supergirl does. She gets chided a lot by her sister, who is a DEO agent, who's like, yeah, you're going to have to learn how to fight and not destroy everything around you. There's a lot of that going on. So let's just cut to it so that we can move on. What did you think of... like I said, I love the pilot episode, and I remember like when they did a little video about the pilot episode, which actually made me very emotional. I was like, wow, this is really good. And I remember thinking after the first season was over that I thought Melissa Benoist plays the character with earnest. I thought she had a lot of charisma, and I like the idea that, you know, she definitely had an arc to her. That despite the problem with Superman, as my dad always says, is, well, what do you do with a guy who can do anything? Like, how do you make him vulnerable? And that was the trick to season 1, which was her power is not where her strength comes from; it's her heart. And those things are tested over the course of the season and will continue to be tested as the series continues. But that's my take on season 1. What was yours?
I did enjoy season 1 quite a bit. I thought we got some really good character development, not only out of Kara, but I like what they did with James Olsen and Win Shot. I thought they were really good. I like some of the other, not villains of the week, but we do get some cool members of the Rogues Gallery, like Livewire, who I couldn't stop laughing because I've been binging Riverdale, and she plays Penny Peabody on that show. So when I saw her, I'm like, shit, Penny Peabody just moved to another town, because it's the same character, just no superpowers. And I originally liked the introduction of Silver Banshee and how they brought in her and how she was that scheming, just horrible little bitch who found out she had superpowers. But when she showed up with the makeover that Livewire gave, I'm like, no, sweetie. I don't care if you are Silver Banshee. There is no way in hell we're going to take you seriously looking like that.
Okay. So, season 2, we get the introduction of Mon-El, who in some iteration of Superman at one point or another was Superboy. He's just Mon-El. Now, he's a Daxamite, is that right?
Something like that. Yeah. Essentially, we get a loophole here where instead of everyone saying, "Oh, I'm from a different Krypton or from a parallel universe or whatever," we start getting sister planets.
All right. So in the galaxy that encapsulates Krypton, there's a neighboring planet, which is, I think, Daxon is what it's called.
It was Daxam or Daxam, or I don't know, depending on who said it and who had what accent.
I'm going with Daxon until you find another iteration, until you figure it out and can correct me. So anyway, so he's crashed on Earth, and this whole season kind of revolves around the Daxon invasion. So essentially, he's there. He's the prince of Daxon, and him and Kara over the course of season 2 develop a relationship. First, they're kind of antagonizing one another. It's a rich boy and the poor girl kind of a thing. He's this prince, and he's used to having things handed to him, and he hasn't had to work for anything. He's sort of a ne'er-do-well. And then you have the earnest and virtuous Supergirl, who's like, get a job. Stop laying around the stupid DO all day. And he, after a time, takes inspiration from her and fights by her side just in time for Terry Thatcher, his mother, to show up, who plays a Queen. No, I was right the first time. Terry Hatcher. And I should have known that because I used to think Terry Hatcher was way hot. Still do, as a matter of fact. Doesn't really matter though. So Terry Hatcher plays Queen Rhea, who is his mother, and she wants Earth for the Daxamites. So apparently when Krypton exploded. It caused a fallout, which ruined Daxon, and they had to take to the stars. And they have been looking for another place to settle. And apparently there's only one planet in the universe where oxygen-breathing folk can live, and that's Earth at this point. So instead of finding anywhere else that they could have lived, the major bit of tension here is that they're going to take over the Earth.
Wasn't that kind of the plot of Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, that when one planet destroyed the other planet, it fell into just disrepair?
Yes. This is City Alpha 5! Yep. City Alpha 6 exploded. And what was once a lush paradise turned to dust. Or something along those lines. Yeah, same similar premise.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but that's not the storyline or the speech that everyone remembers from that movie.
Yes, that is what precedes it is Chekhov going, Captain Kirk was your host. You repaid his kindness by betraying him and trying to murder him. And then he goes into the whole thing about they dropped you on City Alpha 6 or 5 or whichever one it was, and it didn't work out. Did not work out. And Khan was pissed. So yes. So with the fallout of Krypton, Daxamite became uninhabitable. They took to the stars. And over the course of Season 2, they want to take over the Earth. And the way that they ended up defeating them was they... was it lead in the air or something like that?
Yeah, it was a lead dispersal, because it was a device that was originally designed to disperse kryptonite.
Right.
A la Lex Luthor.
So they made it uninhabitable for the Daxamites, and they fucked off. But Kara's true love, don't you understand? Mon-El now couldn't stay on the planet, so he went into space. And we'll see him next season. This is where a couple of really fun things here. We have Dean Cain as Jeremiah Danvers. We have Linda Carter as the president, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that is actually one of the things I do love about the series, is how they're able to tap previous actors to come in and guest on this. We got Dean Cain, like I said, Terry Hatcher playing the Queen. In Season 1, the girl who played Supergirl in Smallville plays Indigo.
We also get our first appearance of the actual Superman, played by Tyler Hoechlin, who's also getting his own series. So he becomes a thing this season.
Yeah, we don't get to see too much of him on the show, which frankly I'm glad about, because we want Supergirl to be the star, and as much fun as it is to see her teaming up with Superman, we do not want Superman to overshadow her.
No.
On this. I'm going to say the only thing I really couldn't stand about the season was the whole Cyborg Superman Hank thing. I was like, oh my God, you're seriously trying to pull that storyline? Cyborg Superman is widely agreed to be one of the top 10 worst Superman bad guys of all time. Like, you could have done anything, and you actually tried to incorporate that very badly, I might add.
Yeah, it's not particularly memorable, other than it was dumb. We get the introduction of Katie McGrath as Lena Luthor, who becomes a big-time character over the course of the next 3 seasons. She becomes Kara's bestie, and a major source of tension and problems as time goes on. Now, this iteration, Lex Luthor is played by Aidan Fink, but that'll soon change in season, I want to say it's either season 4, season 4, where Lex Luthor is introduced, and this time he's John Cryer. Which we had a conversation about at work over whether or not John Cryer was handsome enough to play that role. I think he is. I think John Cryer has grown into his face. He's certainly no Ducky.
Yeah, well, we were talking about this last night, and how when I first heard that Cryer had been cast, I figured it was, again, a casting gimmick, like we had seen so many actors from previous Superman iterations cast. And at the point I was like, we have not forgiven you for Superman 4 yet. What are you trying to pull with this? It's like, sorry, Lenny Luthor will be forever burned into our brains, no matter how hard we try to escape it. But Cryer is probably going up there in my top 5 best Luthors of all time.
Totally.
Especially since he is one of the first, aside from Clancy Brown, who, in my opinion, will always be the best Luthor. I think he's one of the few to really push across both the fear and the charisma of how he's able to get away with so much. There's an episode in season 5 when Toyman attacks, and he's got the little action figures of himself, and he's joking about it and talking about, it's like, here, take one of these home, and he's just so charming about it. And Kara threatens him, and he's like, and he basically threatens her back, and then ends the interview by saying rather loudly into the tape recorder, Kara Danvers is Supergirl, and walks away knowing she's going to have to delete the recording so that doesn't become part of it. And I really like that. I've always liked this idea of Lex Luthor, that he's a genius, and he is always thinking 5 steps ahead. He knows what's going to happen. He knows what you're thinking. He's already planned for every eventuality. And Cryer really sells it. And I'm going to say, I actually like Luthor with a beard. I never thought I would, but he pulls it off.
Lastly, we get Mr. Mxyzptlk in this season, played by Peter, I don't know how you pronounce this, I'm going to go with Gadio.
Mxyzptlk is actually one of my favorite Superman villains, and it's all thanks to Gilbert Gottfried.
I wanted to ask, what did you think of this interpretation of Mr. Mxyzptlk?
I have always loved characters like this, Q or Discord, or they're essentially there to screw with the characters. It's like they're not true villains. They're not there to take over the world. They're not there to make money. They are simply bored out of their skull, and they just want to fuck with everyone. I remember the first time I watched with Mr. Mxyzptlk, and Andre comes in and goes, well, why doesn't he just kill Superman? I literally looked at him and said, why doesn't Q kill Picard? He goes, because it's so much fun. I'm like, exactly. He's not doing this.
Then the game is over.
Yeah, he's not doing this because he hates the heroes. He's doing this because he's bored. It's hilarious.
All right, so that's season 2. What did you think of season 2 and the battle against the Daxamites?
Again, I did enjoy season 2. Mon-El was a fun character. Again, I think my biggest complaint was the Cyborg Superman storyline, which I thought was really bad. I liked the little sprinklings of Superman in there as well. It was fun, and it did set up some pretty good stuff for season 3. So I enjoyed it.
My only issue with season 2 is this is where we get, for a handful of seasons before they wrote him out of the show, Jimmy Olsen as Guardian. And I just...
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that was ever in the comics or not, but it drove me nuts. I know they were trying to find stuff for him to do, and Supergirl needed a gang around her. They needed to write in things for certain characters to do so that you'd have a fully fleshed out show. So most of the time, like a lot of Alex's whole like coming out arc, and then her dating other women, and then later on she's going to want kids, and the woman she's with doesn't, and a lot of the stuff they do with Alex I actually really like. A lot of the stuff they do with John Jones, with his dealing with white Martians, and a lot of the prejudices, and the whole story of the Martians that he has to deal with. I like a lot of that stuff. Win Shot's stuff with him as Toyman, and then we'll talk about it in the next 2 seasons where he becomes part of the Legion of Superheroes. I liked all of that. I just couldn't stand the Guardian stuff. I was like, why is this necessary? I guess I felt like you need stuff for other characters to do. I don't know if we needed... I don't... Especially in a season that was going to have Mon-El there as kind of a sidekick character and a love interest. Why we needed to give Guardian an Iron Man suit.
Yeah, not to mention, Jimmy Olsen never actually played the Guardian role in the comics. Guardian is an established character, but I don't remember who else played that role, but it was someone else. I'll go ahead and give that to you. It was a little exasperating to see them try to... I don't know. I don't want to say it was exasperating to see them develop characters, because that's not true. We want the characters to be developed. But I guess sometimes it's just like, you can work with this character without pushing them to the same spotlight as the other characters. You can find other things for them to do. I can't believe I forgot to talk about, yes, I loved Alexis coming out story, and I am so glad they included Maggie Sawyer, who has been in the comic series and the animated series, and I believe was one of the first confirmed, gay characters in the DC universe.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I like that they put her in as the love interest.
So, season 3, I'm just going to before I even get into it, I'm looking at the cast list, and one of the people they have listed here for season 3 was Helen Slater as Eliza Danvers. Hotsy-totsy. Look at that.
What, you never caught on that Kara's adoptive mother was the previous Supergirl?
It slipped past me, and I never thought about it until rewatching Supergirl from 1984.
Oh, God. Now, I'm not going to lie, I had trouble getting into season 3, and there was one very specific reason.
Okay.
The girl who plays Rain or Sam, whatever her name is, Odette Annabelle.
It was hotsy-totsy, let me tell you. Arrgh.
And bears a very striking resemblance to the girl who used to beat the crap out of me as a kid.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Did you know that your bully was hot, though?
Well, she was also about a foot shorter than Odette Annabelle probably is in real life.
Well, fair enough.
But no, she was my rival and a total bitch. And every time I look at that character, I'm like, oh my God, not again. So it was hard for me to get into watching her because it's like, I just look at her and all I want to do is just snap her in two.
I understand. And I don't mean to make fun, but if we could put that aside for a second, I love this season. This is probably this and season 4 are neck and neck to be my two favorite seasons of Supergirl. One kind of ironically, this one, like, for sure, is probably my favorite season of Supergirl without being ironic and funny about it. This is the World Destroyer season. Odette Annabelle plays Rain, as you said before, aka Samantha Arias, and she's a Kryptonian whose sole purpose in life is to wreck shit. And she will find the other world destroyers as time goes on, and I feel like this was the first season where there's a couple of things going on here. So Mon-El went away, and so the first bit of this season is one, establishing who Samantha Arias is and why it's going to be a horrible shame when she fully converts to Rain during the mid-season finale. So there's a lot. So this one starts off a little slow, but the other thing is, this is very. What's the second Twilight book? Is it Breaking Dawn?
Wow, that's not actually something I thought I'd ever have to think of. Hang on.
You read the Twilight books, didn't you? Or am I wrong about that?
I'm waiting for an apology.
Okay, I guess yeah. My wife has read them like twice. What do you want from me?
The second book is called New Moon.
New Moon. So the beginning of the Supergirl season 3, moving on awkwardly, is very New Moonish in the sense of Kara is struggling to find the next part of her life without Mon-El. That she was already having. She kind of dabbled in a relationship with James, but that got screwed up, and not the least of which because James was in a relationship with, what was it, Lucy Lane from season 1?
I believe so, yeah.
Right. So there's that going on, and then for a while
there's too many L name alliterations.
Yeah. Welcome to comics. So. So that never really goes anywhere, if I remember correctly. I think they kind of kiss here or there. They dip big toe, but they never go full on relationship. And then season 2, she gets involved with Mon-El, and by the end of that, he is sent away. And so here is this woman who, with all the other problems she's got going on in her life, also not particularly adept at the relationship thing, and not particularly very trusting, and she's angry at the world, and she's sad, and it was very Kristen Stewart in New Moon for me. You know, like, they never went full on, you know, she's just kind of sitting in a chair as the seasons change around her, as they did in the movie. But there's a lot in the beginning here of her just not wanting to be Kara Danvers anymore. Like, she just wants to be Supergirl, and she wants to punch stuff because it's easier than having to deal with the pain of having lost the love of her life. Which further gets complicated when he comes back with a life of his own, like you do. Because this is also not just the World Destroyer season, but this is also the Legion of Superheroes season, which I think for a lot of people, this was their favorite season for that reason. We get Brainiac 5, Saturn Girl, and the return of Mon-El.
It was kind of fun. I always do like the future superheroes, and I love how well they incorporate stuff like that into this season and in the future season, especially with Dreamer, who was essentially based off of a Legion member called Dream Girl. And thankfully they don't call her that. I don't think anyone would take her seriously.
No, not at all. So this all builds to a gigantic fight at the end where Supergirl nearly buys the farm, and she's able to beat the World Destroyer. She's able to... I believe she's able to separate Reign from Samantha, if I remember correctly.
It's Lena. Yeah, Lena's the one who's able to... She basically pulls them out so Sam can be saved, but Reign is still now a physical embodiment. Think of it like if somebody was able to separate Jekyll and Hyde, but Hyde was still able to go on a rampage.
Okay. And eventually she's able to take down Reign. Just as an aside, this is what gives us Red Daughter, if I remember correctly, who we'll deal with in season 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think you're right. Forgive me, I hate to say it, seasons 2 through 4 kind of got a little blurry for me. So, like, if I'm missing a couple of details, I apologize.
Yeah, if there's like a hardcore Supergirl fan here, I'm sorry if I'm like messing up some of the details. But, yeah, she eventually is able to win the day, beat the World Destroyers. The Legion of Superheroes, fuck off. They go back to the future.
They take Win with them.
Yes, Win and Brainiac 5 switch places, and this is where we get Jesse Rath as a main cast member for the next 2 seasons, who's been a lot of fun and definitely a well needed added cast member to this group.
I really like this character. There's just something a lot of fun about the fish out of water story with something like this, and I love how he just doesn't get so many, past Earth traditions. It's so cute.
Laurie Metcalf is in this season. She plays Mrs. Schott, and I'm bringing that up only because I was talking. It was probably Robert Winfrey. He hates everything, but it may have been him. It may have been somebody else who Laurie Metcalf. She's in nothing. I'm like, she's in everything. She's Sheldon's mom, Wynn's mom. She's Aunt Jackie from Roseanne. Christ almighty. She's what?
Didn't she get an Oscar nomination? Yeah,
probably.
She was nominated for an Oscar for Lady Bird.
There you go. Leave this poor woman alone. She's wonderful. All right, so season 3, like I said, one of my favorites. It's got a great storyline in it. It was an uphill slog for Supergirl to deal with villains who were her equal, if not her superior in a lot of ways. This is also the one where Mon-El, who's now been in the future for a while and has become a superhero in his own right, a legend, if you will, teaches Kara a thing or two, like how to fight with her cape and shit like that, which I thought was a lot of fun. I thought it was a good element to add to her development as a character. So, what did you think of season 3?
Again, it was a little hard to get into because of Odette, but there was a lot of other things that I liked. I actually completely forgotten. We get a little bit more from John Jones's father, who's played by Carl Lumbly, who does the voice of Martian Manhunter in the Timiverse Justice League. Again, I love all these little details of them getting actors who have been in other things to play these roles, and it's just, it's a nice little wink to the fans.
Indeed. All right, so the next season I like ironically. So, I feel like they were sitting around this is the Red Daughter season, but that's only a part of it. The bulk of this season deals with what's the hell is his name? Something Liberty.
Agent Liberty, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So this is Manchester Black, Agent Liberty. This is the that's it. Okay, I see it now. This is the season in which I feel like they were sitting around a writer's room going, we have this opportunity. We have this soapbox that we can stand on. We should use it to speak to the problems we're having in the world. Well, what problems would those be? Immigration. God damn it. President wants to build a wall. And I'm not going to get into the politics of immigration. That's not what we're here to talk about. But boy, did this show take a stand and a direction and yelled at the clouds. Whoo-wee! And in place of your typical illegal alien situation here in real life, the stand-in was all the aliens from around the universe because Earth was sort of set up as a place for unwashed, unwanted aliens to congregate and be protected by President Linda Carter, who is, say it with me now, also an alien.
Apparently somebody watched Men in Black and thought that part was actually really creative.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, apparently we are the equivalent of the airport in Atlanta.
So
we're a giant Delta hub.
Yes. We have the Alien Amnesty Act here. This is where the aliens go, because the universe is a very small place. And aliens are hiding amongst us. Is this also the Church of Ra season? Or was that season 3?
No, that was this season.
Okay.
Not to mention, I actually groaned when I saw that I love that they brought in Mercy Graves, who again is a really fun character. But then they said, "Oh, and let's bring in Otis," and that's her brother. I'm like, oh God, guys, stop! It's very similar to in season 2 when they brought in Eve Tessmacher, who has become a very great character, and they developed. But I could not get over how often the characters would yell, "Miss Tessmacher!" I'm like, how are you supposed to take that seriously? How?
Yeah. I find myself doing that around the house. I'll just yell out, "Miss Tessmacher! Miss Tessmacher! Butt scratcher!" All right.
Butt scratcher!
Butt scratcher. All right, so, yeah, Season 4 is an amalgamation of the Church of Ra situation, the immigration / Agent Liberty. Essentially, what they do to build tension in this season is they sort of flip the script and say, see all these heroes that are saying that they're helping us? See how much damage that they do? And then specifically looking at the aliens. So one of the things I remember from this season, and I actually thought this was kind of well done. This wasn't as utterly fucking tone deaf as some of the rest of the season. They have a situation where the aliens brought with them nth steel, I believe is how it's pronounced. NTH. Yeah, NTH. And it's lighter and stronger than traditional steel. And so, in doing so, they put the local steel mill out of business, which then causes like this whole town to kind of like fall apart around them. And this is where Ben Lockwood comes in, because the steel mill, I believe, is where his father worked, and I think his father ends up dying, and Ben Lockwood sort of blames everything on aliens, and this is eventually he is manipulated, we'll find out, by Leviathan, I believe it is, through some iteration or another, to where he'll become Agent Liberty. And Agent Liberty's mission in life is to send the aliens back the fuck where they came from. Because aliens are bad. We don't want them. You see, they're taking away jobs. You understand? From the good humans that want them.
Yeah, Kevin Smith directed one of the episodes in season 4. Huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, his daughter was in season 3.
Oh yeah, you don't forget the name Harley Quinn Smith when you see it on the credits.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so They also introduced Manchester Black, as I said before. This season, this is where we get John Cryer as Lex Luthor. This season, look, if I'm being serious, I actually really did like this season a lot. I liked the fact that they're dealing with an issue. That issue was taken up by various characters. I thought that this in season 3 and season 4, I thought were the most tightly knitted, tightly woven, linear plots of the entire series, which is a big complaint I have about season 5, which we'll be talking about at length momentarily. But I actually liked... I think my problem with it and why I kind of laugh at it is, like, on the one hand, I thought they told a very nice story. It gets a little convoluted with the Red Daughter stuff, which is the second half of the season, but the stuff dealing with Agent Liberty specifically and Manchester Black and immigration and aliens and whatnot, I actually thought worked really, really well. And again, without having to go back to, we need, like, you know, Supergirl's version of Doomsday, which is what they basically did with Reign, I thought they gave Supergirl a really powerful villain to deal with. And a lot of it was on an intellectual level, not a physical level, which is what you need to do with superpowered characters like this, overpowered characters like this. You have to find ways of getting at them. And Supergirl being so earnest and virtuous, and then being made to look like a villain in these tumultuous times, I thought was pretty brilliant. I think where I laughed at it was this was the wrong show for this sort of political commentary. Like, they're trying, but it's like, come on, man, you're the CW, for fuck's sake. Like, you guys don't write with a fine crafted pen. You guys write with a hammer and chisel.
For the record, I found a DC Arrowverse viewing order website on geekyregards.com.
So that's my take on season 4. Let's cut this in half here. First, what did you think of the immigration alien stuff?
I'm split on it because, as we've talked about on previous shows, I like it when they, are able to find parallels that we can, recognize, but I don't like it when the shit is hit over the head or hits us over the head with, frickin' sledgehammer. Now, I really like the introduction of Dreamer and how well they establish her as a trans hero.
Can we stop there for a second? I'm glad you brought it up. I would have forgotten to. But I need to ask. So did you happen to see all the complaining that went on about the first trans superhero character?
I actually did not, but I have absolutely no problem imagining it because I have seen what people have bitched about with every other character who is LGBTQ. So, I've got a perfectly good mental image.
Sure. Let me go ahead and say this should not come as a shock to anyone who has heard our She-Ra review. I think the Dreamer character is fine. I think the actress who plays her,
who is trans.
Okay, turns out is a nice looking gal. I think the character has developed nicely over 2 seasons. I think she comes across better in season 5 than she does in season 4. But I liked her in season 4, and I think the people who complain about her, it's just prejudice and it's unnecessary. I don't think they do a bad job of writing this character, and they don't lean on the trans part at all. It's like addressed once, and then she's just a person in the world doing a thing. And it's more about her relationship with Brainiac 5 when that develops. It's about her learning to use her powers and how that affects her relationship to Supergirl. These are the important things, and that's why I don't complain about this kind of stuff. Because rather than focusing on the fact that she's trans, how about we just focus on whether or not she's a well-played character, well-written character.
Exactly. See, I've mentioned this before, that while I have absolutely nothing against LGBTQ characters, I hate it when people call for already established characters to be made LGBTQ. That kind of thing just sort of bugs me because I feel like we're not actually creating a character for representation, but rather we're trying to cash in on what's popular. So I like what they did with this. Again, Dreamer is not an existing character in the DC universe, but Dream Girl is a member of the Legion of Superheroes in the future and has all the same characters. So they said, okay, here's what we can do. It's not Dream Girl, it's her ancestor, Dreamer, and she's got the same powers, and we can make her trans. I'm like, that actually works. You know, I like it. I like that they were able to create a character who still exists within the realms of the DC universe, and it makes sense. And again, this is a very good actress. I hate to admit, I think the only thing that drives me nuts is I really don't like her crooked front teeth, but that's just that's a pet peeve of mine. I'm sorry. I hate watching Anna Paquin with that gap in her teeth too. It's just something that drives me nuts.
Alrighty then.
It's my thing, but no. But the only other thing I laugh at, and I know it takes a different meaning in the show, but whenever they talk about, I've studied dream interpretation and things like that, as a fun hobby, I've done palm reading and dream interpretation and things, just for fun on the side. I've actually got books on it. So when they talk about I've studied dream interpretation, I just kind of look and I go, yeah, I've got a couple of books on, and I don't think we're talking about the same thing. But
I have a girl I work with used to do tarot readings on Facebook.
I'm sorry, what?
A girl I work with does used to do tarot readings on Facebook.
Oh, tarot. I thought you said tower, and I'm like, what the hell?
No, ma'am. Tarot.
But you get what I'm saying. It's like, I love that kind of stuff, and it's fun, and I like the idea that she gets these visions, but hearing the words dream interpretation, it hits my ear, and I'm going, that's not what you guys mean. You need to find another phrase.
All right. So, the Agent Liberty stuff. What'd you think?
We get a character like this all the time, one who just is so blinded by their prejudice and hatred that they're never going to look and think that these characters are all equal. We were talking about this the other night. I've been binge watching X-Men the animated series, and we go from Bolivar Trask, who creates the Sentinels, to Fabian Cortez, who's a mutant who thinks all humans need to die, and they're just so caught up in their hatred and just cannot. They're beyond saving. There is no other way to say it. They are so blind to their hatred that they cannot be redeemed. And those are characters you don't want to use too often because it kind of becomes a crutch. But I do like throwing them in, not every season, but maybe every other season, of just someone who is never going to be redeemed.
So at about episode 16, we start getting into the Red Daughter stuff, and this is Melissa Benoist trying very, very hard to do a Russian accent.
Trying being the key word there.
Yeah, I think they were just too far into it for them to be like, "Stop, you're terrible." But dear Melissa Benoist, you're awesome as Supergirl. Please stop doing Russian accents. Don't do any more accents. Don't try to. All you're going to be is a blonde American gal. That's it. That's your that's your range, lady. So,
now, I'm not going to lie. This was what I was actually hoping they were going to do when we found out that they were making another clone of Supergirl when this season started. Again, going back to the Timiverse Justice League, they did have you seen all of that series?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're familiar with how they did Power Girl with the Galatea storyline. It was a Supergirl clone.
I don't remember it all. I know that Power Girl is Supergirl from another universe, but that's all I know about the character.
With the world's best costume for checking out cleavage.
You know, I'm already, kind of a pig pervert. I wasn't going to say anything, but yeah. Woohoo! Arrgh. It's your own fault. I wasn't going to do that.
I used to actually have a green sleeveless turtleneck top that had a hole in the chest, exactly like Supergirl's. I'd wear it to conventions, and I remember one weekend the table across from me, apparently they had a Nerf gun, and they were taking bets on how offended I would get if they started trying to shoot for the hole in my shirt.
Nice, well done.
Admittedly, they confessed to me that before they started shooting, and I just said, if one actually hits this area, I think I'll be more impressed than anything. Side note, do me a favor and don't shoot when I have customers over here, okay? I don't want to have to explain why little Jimmy got a Nerf dart in his eye while I'm trying to sell his mother a pair of earrings.
Yeah, I have one of the trades from the Power Girl series, plus the the side quest series that Power Girl and Harley Quinn. And, look, I'm not going to lie. I'm into Power Girl because of the chesticles. Sorry, I'm a dude.
Everyone's into Power Girl because of the chesticles. No one admits they like Power Girl because of a character, okay?
Okay.
No one.
Well, see, then I'm normal like everybody else. What do you make a big deal out? Quiet over there. What's wrong with you?
Okay, as I was saying, so in the animated Bruce Timmiverse, they came up with a way to do Power Girl by having her be a Supergirl clone. And they didn't call her Power Girl, they called her Galatea. That's a... oh, God, what's the name of that? There's a classic story about the sculptor who builds the beautiful woman, and he prays to Aphrodite to bring her to life, and the statue is called Galatea.
I believe you're referring to Pinocchio.
Smack.
I can hear you blinking.
Can you hear me scowling?
Yes.
Okay, but anyways, that was a good way to bring in Power Girl. Because I knew that there was no way they were really going to, establish other universes. So we get two versions of the Supergirl clone so far. The first one is Bizarro, and yeah, I hate to admit it, but that did kind of bug me. I was like, that's not Bizarro, guys. But then we do this with a Red Daughter. I'm saying, going, guys, you should have just done what they did with the Timmiverse. Make it Power Girl and have Power Girl be the clone. It just would have worked out so much better. And then, yes, we could have Melissa in the Chesticles costume, and then everyone would be happy.
See, they're not getting, Batwoman didn't work out. I don't know why we can't get a Power Girl show. I think the ratings for the CW shows would go skyrocketing after that. I can hear you scowling. Cut it out.
Look, I'm going, that just looks like it's going to bug the hell out of you.
So, you got disconnected
momentarily. Was that your phone that just beeped up?
Yeah. The last thing I said was, I don't know why we can't get a Power Girl series. I think ratings would skyrocket because, huge tits. And then I just thought you were scowling and blinking at me again. But apparently Skype... Instead, Skype was scowling and blinking, and we got disconnected momentarily.
I was just saying the only thing I actually dislike about Power Girl's costume is the cape over the one shoulder thing, and that's more of an OCD thing for me. Because I look at that,
staring at that woman's cape.
I don't like the one cape look. I think it's more of a Roman look.
Yes,
like a classic.
And I know what you're saying, and I'm telling you, there's not a single red-blooded American male looking at that cape.
Am I a red-blooded American male, Mark?
So, Red Daughter, Season 4. Let's wrap this up and move on.
I was going to say, I thought this was, you wanted to keep this under 2 hours. We haven't even started talking about Season 5 yet.
We're getting there. Red Daughter, go.
Honestly, Season 4, I think Season 4 was probably the most forgettable of the season so far.
Really? Because I think the first half of it's really pretty solid. The second half that deals with the Red Daughter stuff, I think they lost focus on what was making the first half of the season work. Even though the Agent Liberty stuff is still a part of it, but I think this is where you start getting into the Kasnian thing and the introduction of Lex Luthor, and it becomes more about that than it does about everything they had set up in the first half of the season. And so this is why I don't think it's as strong as Season 3.
Agreed. Unfortunately, that's a trend that carries over into Season 5. It's that you get the feeling that the writers were starting to put themselves into corners, and they just kind of, and it almost feels like everything was handed off to an entirely different staff to prevent that from happening. Both season 4 and season 5, it feels like they were going somewhere, and then all of a sudden, oh God, hold on, giant 90-degree turn.
Yeah. So let's get into it. We spent an hour kind of talking about the first 4 seasons here, but we're really here. We're really, really here. We're really, 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 really here to talk about season 5. I don't even know how to describe what season 5's about.
I call season 5 the "oh my God, will you quit whining" season.
Well, okay.
Because nearly every character in this season is going through this pity me, oh, everything has gone to hell thing, and no, it hasn't. And frankly, Lena Luthor, okay, we find out at the end of season 4, Lena kills Lex to save everyone, and Lex, in his dying breath, because he's a dick, tells her that everyone's been lying to her and that Kara is Supergirl.
To which season 5 she throws a giant temper tantrum.
Yeah, and this killed me because it's like, okay, it's been established that Lena has serious problems with betrayal. Obviously, she's a Luthor. If this family's not backstabbing each other, they wouldn't know what the hell to do with their free time. This is a family that goes over for Thanksgiving dinner and goes, okay, so who's getting the poison in which goblet?
All right, before this continues, the couple of things about this season. It's a very schizophrenic season, but it's a table with 4 legs. The first leg is the Crisis on Infinite Earth season. Okay, a lot of what happens in Crisis affects the second half of season 5. This is whatever the things you put in your eyes, the virtual reality thing is a huge...
Oh, God, those stupid... Tell me I'm not the only one that every time you see the characters putting their contacts in and out, I was just going, that's all you could do. It's obviously not putting the contacts in and out. They just wipe their fingers over their eyes, and then the CGI artist takes over.
Yeah, something like that.
It's so stupid. So,
yeah, a lot of the season deals with this company that's produced these contact lenses that put you in virtual reality. They use it as a framing device for a lot of different things this season, so that's an important thing that they're dealing with. The Lena / Lex / Supergirl triangle takes up a lot of this season. As you were saying, Lex tells Lena at the end of season 4 that Kara and Supergirl are the same person, to which Lena decides that life would be better if people weren't people anymore. And she's going to create a way to remove badness from people, essentially. No more lying, no more cheating, no more teachers' dirty looks. Nothing. And she's going to wipe it out of humanity. So she spends a good portion of the first half of the season trying to figure out how to do that. And then in the second half is, and this is what leads to the fourth leg of the table, is Lex trying to manipulate her to help him out with his issue, with what he's got going on after he's come back to life.
Which turns into, I want to join Leviathan!
That's what I was getting to. And so, it's the fourth leg of the table is Leviathan / whatever the hell Ramakhan and the other person are. I think they're like ancient aliens or some shit like that.
In the comics, they were from Atlantis, actually.
Okay.
Which is kind of cool, but yeah, in this one, I don't know if they're aliens who have been on this earth for a long time, if they are the literal personification of gods, which, frankly, in the DC universe, you can use... well, it's like that scene in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It's like, you're a god? Small g. They're very similar. It's like, there's a difference between you're a god and you're a god small g in the DC universe. There are multiple levels of that kind of a thing.
Yeah. So that's it. So that's what I mean. Like, you know, you had the first season, which was Fort Roz, and we had Fort Roz and Supergirl's aunt, right?
And Fort Roz and Myriad.
And then the second season, you had the Daxamites. In the third season, you had the World Destroyers and...
Legion of Superheroes.
The Legion of Superheroes. The fourth season, Agent Liberty and Red Daughter. And in this one, as if, like, going to the George Lucas School of Writing, they're like, can we just do 4 plots? How about 5? How about 6 plots? Let's get a pod race in there. This was all over the fucking road.
And they try to get so many of these storylines to intersect, and they don't need to. I actually got pissed that they gave Andrea Rojas, and first of all, I hated that they gave her powers. It was like, because, okay, first of all, I'm just going to say this. I actually know a woman like Rojas who says her name like that. She has a Spanish surname.
Did you ever watch...
She has no accent.
Did you ever watch Married with Children?
Little too young for that.
Okay. There's a reporter on Married with Children who every time she walks into the room, and they would do this, they would use her more often, and so the character, every time she did it, would know that the audience was into it and was, like, cheering her and, like, love the fact that she would basically, like, overpronounce her name. And... And so what started out as a gag became like this huge moment in Married with Children every time she did it. And people would like cheer and laugh and have a great time with it. And the actress herself would almost break the fourth wall in doing so.
I actually knew someone like that when I was working at a local TV station here in town. I'm not going to say which station, and I'm not going to say which reporter. But it was a female reporter. She was of Spanish ancestry. She had a Spanish surname. She had no accent. I think she was maybe like second or third generation American. But every time she signed off on her name, she had to just add that every accent in the book onto her name. And I hated it so much, especially since a lot of us joked. It's like, yeah, that's like she keeps milking. That's probably why she got the job.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rojas was a character who was one of those you love to hate her. Mm-hmm. And I love that so much when they bring her in. She has got a face that you just want to punch. She's got a voice that tells you she doesn't give a rat's ass what you think. We find out that she has bought Catco so she can promote her own company, which sounds a lot like a certain, leader of the free world maybe trying to buy a TV network so it can only air good shit about him. Maybe that sounds familiar. But again, and she starts trying to turn him more into a tabloid. You say we need more clicks, and we need, so we need more clickbait and things like that. And it's a character that you want to just strangle. And I love characters like that. I love a bad guy that gets that kind of reaction. And she's not the main antagonist. She is just this giant thorn in Kara's side. And I love that. And then halfway through the season, she is on Leviathan's payroll, and she has these superpowers for some reason. And she's not a character from the comics, so she was created solely for the show. I'm going, why did you have to do that? It was too much. It was way too much.
Yeah. This whole season is way too much. Like, there was enough plot in this season. I don't know if you've ever seen the Ask a Ninja review of Pirates of the Caribbean, the second one, but he goes, everybody has a plot line. You've got a plot line. You've got a plot line. If you're a pirate ship, you've definitely got a plot. You get a good plot line. If you're a dog, you get a plot line. If you're just you're an eye patch, you get a plot line. What was that?
It's Oprah Winfrey. You're getting a plot line. Everyone in this audience is getting a plot line.
So let's kind of break these down so that we have some semblance of order in this discussion. Let's talk about Lena and Kara. So Lena, like I said, spends the first part of the season trying to, and this is what drives a lot of the action. She's trying to create this machine that using Q waves will knock out terrible parts of people's personality, and so that way nobody will cause hurt, nobody will lie, nobody will do bad things. Over the course of season 5, she joins with her brother, who is manipulating things in such a way so that he can do away with Leviathan. That becomes his thing. Leviathan is, of course, connected to was it Gemini and Rama Khan. And
it's not Gemini. let's just call her Gemma. It's a very bizarre name that I can never pronounce right, but she goes by Gemma when she's in her human disguise, so let's just call her that.
Yeah, so you have Gemma and Ramakan, who are connected to Leviathan, whose Lex is trying to depose in some way. So for a while...
Yeah, actually, I could never get that. Was he trying to get rid of them, or was he trying to join them?
I think... Well, he doesn't want to share power. So I think at the end of the day, whatever it was he was doing, he was making it so that they weren't the ones pulling the strings anymore. And that's what I say. Season 5, not really well written. But, so we start with them, with her and Kara as enemies. At some point or another, Kara says, I'm not going to actively try to stop you from doing whatever it is you're doing, but if you do a bad thing and you don't want to play ball anymore, you don't want to be friends, then I'm not going to hold back from stopping you either if I think what you're doing is wrong. Like I said, eventually Lena and Lex form a pairing, and then she figures out that Lex is using her, which is what she wanted to avoid in the first place, and so she ends up reuniting with Kara, and because of COVID, they had to cut the season short, but that's about where things with Lena and Kara end, is they have come back together as a unit, as friends, as compatriots to deal with whatever Lex is going to do next.
Was this cut short because of COVID?
Yes.
I thought I heard
this was only 19 episodes. It was supposed to be 23.
Oh, I thought I heard that this was cut short because the lead actress was pregnant.
They wrote around...
Was pregnant. Yeah, because Melissa was pregnant about halfway through this.
I believe they wrote around that. The problem was COVID.
Okay.
So let's start there. Just your quick thoughts on the Lena-Kara plotline this season.
Raise your hands if you wanted to grab Lita, just slap her across the face, telling her to get over it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I landed. Like, I don't know what the writers were going for with her, if she was supposed to be sympathetic, but it's like, I don't think there's a person who, reasonably thinks Kara needed to tell. And this is one of my dad's complaints about, like, Batman, is by the time you get to the fourth movie, Batman's told everybody. By the time you get to the fourth movie in the Joel Schumacher, Tim Burton series, or the third one in the Christopher Nolan series, he's fucking told everybody who he is. It's the worst kept secret ever, that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
There's a joke in a book of Daredevil where Daredevil says something that's like, I can't reveal my secret identity, and someone goes, yeah, except for this person and this and this and this and this and this, and you just kind of realize, yeah, Daredevil actually is the absolute worst at keeping his secret identity.
Right, and so I get where they're going with Lena's character, but as you said, you just want to slap her and be like, well, could you please be an adult about this?
Yeah, both her and Kara does kind of start to drive me nuts with how she's like, I'm tired of starting with lies, and I'm tired of not being able to tell people who I am, and I really shouldn't. It's like, okay, your cousin called and he's telling you to freaking grow up.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's like majority of the Justice League have managed to find ways to hide their secret identity without telling people, and I know that being a superhero like that, you do have to find balance. You can't tell everyone, oh, this is why I'm stepping out of the meeting, or this is why I have to cancel our date. And yeah, it's not easy, but it's such an annoying story.
Who do you think handled it better, Supergirl or Donald Duck? I can ask you that question because I've had you on both shows. Ha ha! Are you scowling at me again?
Yes. I think we've hit a record for how many times I've scowled at you.
Oh, well, good. This accomplished something then this evening.
Yeah, but again, it's a story arc and we get it, but it really is annoying. And I'm going to add, it's annoying to have this come in on the 5th season. Kara's been Supergirl for a while. This is something she should have dealt with in the first season. Not now. It's like, now, sweetie, you got a costume with fucking pants. Now pull them up and actually act like an adult.
Can I tell you how my daughter thought that this was the best season of Supergirl ever because finally the woman's wearing pants? That was
pants.
That was the high water mark for my daughter. She was like, I don't care about anything else going on in this show. I'm 9. I don't give a shit. I'm just happy she's wearing pants, because really, the skirt was ridiculous. That was my daughter. Little feminist that she is.
Your daughter scares me sometimes.
She's amazing. Yeah, I'm with you there. I felt like they overplayed their hand with Lena, and they made her to be very petulant. And I can see with the previous episodes of Lena and her history why she can be a petulant child. But if she's a villain, you're rooting for Supergirl to hit her in her petulant face. If she's supposed to be a character you're rooting for because she's on the good guy team, I need her to be a little less pitchy.
Exactly.
Because right now, I just want her to be off the show. And I like Katie McGrath. I think she's hot. I think she does a really great job with the character as it's been written up to this point. I like her as part of the show. I liked her. Her and Melissa Benoist have a lot of chemistry together, so I like them on screen. But they just, whatever they set her up with in the previous seasons, they threw it out the window this season and made her wholly unlikable.
Exactly. Lena just drove me nuts. And the whole, I'm going to program people into, not doing any harm anymore. I don't know. That kind of stuff just... Maybe it's because I've taken way too many philosophy classes in college, but that kind of stuff just irks me. The idea that someone says, we're just going to erase the part of the brain that, does harm. It's like, you can't do that.
No.
You can not do that, and this is a storyline that needs to be stopped.
Yeah. So let's talk about another storyline that kind of drove me nuts this year. And this had to do a lot with Alex, because she ends up dating the woman who's invented these things. These are I can't remember what their actual names are, but these are the lenses that give you bring you into virtual reality.
Yeah, it's like the obsidian something.
Okay, let's go with that. The obsidian lenses.
Like I said, the first thing that drove me nuts was the horrible CGI with having the characters put the lenses on and off. Now, I understand that you probably don't want to have every actor on this show putting contact lenses in, because it's going to get just really old after a while. But the CGI was just horrible. Just swipe. Now my eyes are white. You get this scene in the middle of the show, in the middle of the season, where a tidal wave has been created, and it's coming to the coast, and there's all these people with the contact lenses on just walking around, staring aimlessly, and they don't notice that they're about to die. I'm just screaming out of this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, and then they're talking about how they've actually programmed the lenses so you can feel things and you can actually taste and smell things. I'm sitting there going, oh, sweet Jesus, we went over. It's like I've read Ready Player One. Okay, we already have established why this doesn't work.
We also did this in Star Trek, where if you die or get hurt in the holodeck, you die or get hurt in real life.
Yeah, I mean, we did this whole thing with the freaking Matrix. I'm just sitting there going, okay, you know what? I could actually buy it working in the Matrix because it's programmed directly into the brain. But you're telling me that your contact lenses are powerful enough that they can actually send signals to the brain to tell me that I'm eating a juicy steak. I call that a bullshit.
So I liked the concept of using these things and the kinds of things they could do with them in terms of a plot, some villain or other, and they did do this to a certain extent. They didn't take it very far. The idea of, what if we trap people in here, and now that's a thing that Supergirl has to deal with. I actually liked the episode where Alex goes into we use the obsidian lenses to deal with her most recent trauma. I forget what set Alex off.
Her dad died.
Right, her dad dies. Yeah, they find out that her dad dies, and so she spends an episode or two moping about that. And one of the episodes, she actually becomes Supergirl inside this VR, And I actually liked that episode a lot. So there's things they did with them that I actually thought were pretty cool and added something to the show. And in a season that I really struggled with. Like at the end of all things, they hit the high mark with season 3, a little bit less with season 4, and we're back down again with season 5, where this might be the worst season of this show. It's definitely not as good as the pilot, and I don't think it's as good as season 2.
I agree. Again, the contact lenses are just the whole idea of a virtual reality so realistic you escape everything. That has been done multiple times over.
Mm-hmm.
Again, read Ready Player One. Great book. Movie, not too bad as long as you look at it as a separate entity.
Well, the thing I liked about it was when they dealt with it as a they talked about this as a means for helping people with trauma. I could get into that. That I liked.
True. The problem is we didn't really see a lot, with the exception of Alex, who went in and apparently it glitched on her, so she lost control and couldn't get back to reality. We don't really see how it's helping people with trauma or grief. Rojas just comes in repeatedly to say that that's what it's doing, but we don't really get a lot of that.
Yeah, I wish they'd actually dealt with that a little bit more. So I got to talk a little bit about the Crisis on Infinite Earths for a minute. So, without getting into we did a whole review on Crisis on Infinite Earths. You can go into the archives and read it. Plug! I did it before you did. So you can check that out in the archives. We talked about it at length. But the major takeaway from this was, one, Lex. They rewrote the universe so that National City is on the same Earth as Star City and whatever city Barry's from.
Central City,
yeah. Everybody, including the Legends, and I think Black Lightning, are now all on... Yeah, because Black Lightning was at the Hall of Justice at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody except for Stargirl, who has her own show now, is on the same Earth. Stargirl's on a whole other Earth.
Stargirl may be... Wait, I think Stargirl is on the same Earth. I just don't think they've bothered to connect the dots yet. Because they do mention in this episode that... I think it's John Jones goes to Opal City, and that's where Stargirl is.
Yeah,
so
I haven't started watching Stargirl yet. I guess maybe you and I will... I didn't know you were watching it, but maybe you and I will talk about it later this year.
I'm not. I just recognize the name of the town. I do not have the DC streaming yet.
Okay, it's also on the CW.
I actually don't have TV. I have Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, and a few others. But Andre and I actually don't have regular TV. We just have internet.
Okay. Either way, we'll figure this out later.
We got a big screen TV hooked up to a desktop.
So, long story short, too late. Everybody who was on the preceding CW shows, including Batwoman, are now all on the same planet.
I gotta ask you, now, first of all, I established this earlier. I did not watch The Crisis on Infinite Earths while watching this because I am not caught up on all the other shows, and I would basically be... As I love the Crisis on Infinite Earths book, I was part of the source material talking about it, which was mostly me asking Jesse and Al, wait, what character is that in the background? Wait, who is that? Wait, what's going on? Wait, what page are we on? Because that is one of the most complicated comic... I think I mentioned in the review, it's like, reading this is an experience, but it's essentially like reading it's like going through a tale of two cities. You know you're getting through something amazing, and you're glad to be a part of it, but it's so much work. So, I did not watch... any of the with the exception of the first season, World's Finest, I did not watch any of the crossover events in Supergirl. Mm-hmm. I will watch them when, thankfully, like I said, there's this new viewing guide that I found, which will help me so I can rewatch Arrow and Flash and actually be like, okay, now I know what order I'm just supposed to go into. Do you think this season would have been better if they had just moved Crisis on Infinite Earths to the season finale and ended it like that?
Maybe. I mean, like I said, where I was going with this was it's the Crisis episode's important because it does two things to this world. One, it shifts it to the same Earth as everybody else, where it had previously been on a different Earth. They don't do too much with that. Nobody did. Everyone kept insisting the multiverse was gone, which it's not. However, the second thing that it does, and this is why it wouldn't have worked as necessary unless they rewrote the season entirely, was that it brought Lex Luthor back to life, and this Earth, and specifically National City, were rewritten where Lex Luthor is no longer a bad guy. So he's starting off so he becomes the head of the DEO, and him and Kara are like best friends, and him and Superman were never enemies, and this is all an elaborate plot to get at Supergirl, but for the time...
Well, Superman, all Kryptonians in general.
So, so Lex wrote himself into having an advantage over the Kryptonians going forward. In that sense, you needed to have known what happened in Crisis, at least with Supergirl, so that you can understand why life was different preceding Crisis, and why the whole next half of the season, Lex Luthor's in the position that he's in.
I think it was also an attempt to give Lex Luthor more of the character that we've seen in post-Crisis books, where Lex Luthor was able to hide behind his charitable contributions and essentially disguise who he really was. And that's one of the things I always loved about... There was a huge debate I had with an old girlfriend of mine about pre- or post-Crisis Luthor. Pre-Crisis Luthor is more what you got with Gene Hackman in the first Superman movies. The mustache-twirling, the greatest criminal mind kind of character, the one who was always seen in the green and purple jumpsuits in the comics. Post-Crisis Luthor is more what we see from like Clancy Brown in the Timiverse. He is a businessman, he is a genius, and he knows very well how to hide his evilness. I've often joked, it's like, wow, it's like Donald Trump needs to take a page out of Luthor's book here to actually hide what a jackass he is.
We probably don't want the president knowing anything about Lex Luthor for many reasons.
No, but it has made multiple jokes about how Luthor actually was a better president in the comics than Trump is.
Boo. All right, moving on.
But sorry, but I always liked post-Crisis Luthor more. I like this character who knows how to hide his evil doings.
Yeah,
there's a great episode of the Timiverse series where Superman has figured out the connection between this stolen robot and LexCorp, and he goes to confront Lex, and Lex is just standing there going, it's like there's no evidence that connects. It's all circumstantial, and I've got the best lawyers, and half the city works for me. And Superman doesn't say anything. He's just scowling at him, and Lex is talking on, and he's like, so what do you think of that? And Superman doesn't say anything, and Lex is just trying to get him. He's like, will you answer me? But Superman won't say anything. And I love that. I love it because Superman knows he can't touch Lex.
Right.
He can't touch him yet. And that's one of the things I love about the character.
So that's the Crisis stuff. It's important. I think it's one of the better things about this season, which again is not great. The fourth leg, and the second half of the entire season deals with Leviathan. We get the bit where Brainiac does the data thing, where he takes the chip out of his brain or puts the chip into his brain. Anyway, he becomes closer to Brainiac than he ever wanted to be. But that allows him to link up with Luthor because they've decided that Leviathan is the worst thing ever. And here's my issue with Leviathan. The Germans, I think, in and around World War II, maybe before, maybe after, I don't quite remember. But they I want to say it was, they had collected so much information about so many, there's so much spying going on in the middle of the 20th century. And this may have gone for the Russians as well, to where it was too much information to actually process. They had it, but there's just so many pages of paper people can look at and make useful to make the endeavor worthwhile. And I thought about that with Leviathan. Leviathan is everywhere. Leviathan is everybody. It's an ill-defined organization with ill-defined goals. And anybody and everybody can be in Leviathan at any given time. It becomes Deus Ex Machina for bad plotting, and it drove me absolutely up the wall. And I think that's why I fucking hate this season. Because between Leviathan and Lena Luthor, the only thing that saves it for me is the Crisis stuff. And John Cryer is awesome as Lex Luthor.
Let me put it this way. You didn't watch the Gargoyles animated series on Disney, right?
Nope.
Yeah, I thought so. I think that was after your time. They actually incorporated the Illuminati into that series, and actually made it believable and understandable. Because one of the side characters is trying to get into the Illuminati, and a local representative essentially finds out that he's got a connection with the gargoyles. And it's like, well, maybe we could let you into our organization if you bring one of them to us. And they actually made it understandable. This huge, massive secret organization. And when I started watching Leviathan, I think is this like an Illuminati kind of thing? Is that what we're going for? No, it's not Illuminati. And it just kind of, I sat back and I thought, wow, a kid's show on Disney did a better job of explaining, world controlling secret societies better than this show did.
It was a very hackneyed way of connecting the Obsidian Eyes to a larger story. I just want it to end. And because of COVID, we're not going to see a resolution to this until the beginning of Season 6, and then Season 6 will take on whatever other direction it's going to take on. But this needs to end. I'm okay with Lex Luthor being around, though I think they need to find something else for him to do as well, because I think Supergirl works better when she's... There's a lot of Superman that's in this show. You have a Bizarro Supergirl, you have a Red Sun Supergirl, you have...
Livewire, who was originally a Superman villain.
Metallo, Cyborg Superman. There's a lot of Superman written into this show, but they make it work, and I think it's pretty well done. And so whether or not you look at Supergirl's comic lineage, or you look at the Rogues Gallery in Superman, there's so much more to do that if this becomes a thing where they're just resting on Lex Luthor all the time, this show's going to get even worse. So they're at kind of a tipping point right now to where the next season needs to be a lot more focused than this one was. They need a good, like they've had in seasons 2, 3, and 4. They need a good central villain to work up towards and deal with, while continuing to flesh out everybody else's plot lines and characters and whatnot. And I feel like, again, I'm doing the Plinkett thing of the Star Wars conclusion multiplicity thing, where in A New Hope, it's just the attack on the Death Star, and in Empire, it was the escape from Hoth and the duel with Darth Vader, and in Return of the Jedi, it was the duel with Darth Vader and the Emperor, the attack on the Death Star, and the attack on the shield generator on Endor, and then the fourth movie, in that order, The Phantom Menace, you have the attack on the robot ship. You have the Gungan War. You have Padme running around. And, oh, by the way, you have a duel with another fucking lightsaber-wielding fella. That's 4 different endings. And so... And this is going to be my last word on this. I'm going to let you kind of sum up your points and talk about anything else that think we missed. I think you need to address Thomas Lennon in that episode as Mr. Mxyzptlk, because they changed characters, which is a brilliant episode, by the way.
Absolutely, I love Thomas Lennon. He's one of those hilarious comedian character actors who has appeared in so freaking much.
Yeah, he is amazing.
He really is. He's a really great character actor, and I really enjoyed him in this.
So I will leave you to talk to him, but just to wrap up, and then I'll give you the floor, and we'll get out of here. We need to get back to basics with Supergirl. We need to get away from this, Phantom Menace, multiple plot lines, everything's too far spread out way of writing things, and get to, here's the villain, this is clearly what the villain wants to do, here's Supergirl, here's what she's struggling with, and here's why those things relate. If you've got the villain and their motivation on one hand, and you've got Kara and her struggles in the other hand, relate the two, and then go forward from that point, like you did in season 3, and I think you have brilliant storytelling. You have the makings of what can be, a turnaround for this show. If they keep going in this direction, where everything is buckshot, you're going to lose me as a fan, and I'm, big supporter of this show. So, I don't know how much that matters to anybody listening, but hey, the ratings have not been great for this show. It's good enough that they're going to keep doing it on the CW, but they're not holding on to viewers. If you look back at where they've been from season 2, because CBS was a whole other thing. So if you're doing an apples to apples comparison here, season 2 to season 5, the ratings have done nothing but plummet. So get your shit together, people. I'll give you the last word.
First of all, yes, the Mixes Pitlick episode is really great, especially for probably my favorite line in the entire series. Oh, of course, I've got it on Betamax. That killed me. That was hilarious. I really did enjoy how they would cut between him doing a film strip to putting it on a TV with a VHS or with the Betamax tapes to pulling it up on a laptop with like a video mix or something on the back. Again, it's little details like that I really enjoy. And like I said before, Mixes Pitlick is easily one of my favorite bad guys in Superman's gallery, and I love seeing him come back. I do like that they changed the character around. I do kind of like the idea that he can change his shell, for lack of better terms, to suit whatever he needs. Like, well, I don't need to wine and dine you now, so I'm just going to look normal. And that's just a really cool character idea. But again, this season is all over the map. Not to mention, even a lot of the characters' plans just sound so stupid. You get Rama Khan, who is played by another actor who I really enjoy. I can't remember the character's name, but I saw him. He was originally on one of the seasons of Supernatural. He plays Sam and Dean's grandfather. He's a really good actor, and he's playing this Earth god, and it's so annoying how he's saying stuff like, "Oh, shut up! I'm trying to save the world." And we're going back to the I need to kill off a decent amount of humanity to save the world storyline. And I'm just going to say it. Retire that story arc. Writers, retire it, okay? We get it. And it's been done. Done. I'm sorry, but I am so tired of the story arc of how humanity is evil and we're destroying the earth. They're not wrong. And we do need to make some changes. I am a gigantic environmentalist who will yell at people for not recycling. You can ask my husband. I drive him nuts every time he tries to throw an aluminum can in the trash. But this story arc has been done so many times, and it's so cliche, and I'm sick of it. We got it in Age of Ultron. We got it in Venom. We got it in the Watchmen series. I'm done. I'm just tired of it. And hearing these characters say that they're going to kill off all these people to try to save the Earth, I'm like, come on. This is Superman. This is DC. We could be having so much fun with these villains trying to gain power and take control and turn people into slaves. And you're going on this huge bender about how we need to kill off so many people to save the planet. It's done. Come up with something else. Now, I will agree with you. They do need to go easy on Luthor. This was actually what a lot of people said when the Superman Returns movie came out and we got Kevin Spacey as Luthor. And I'm not going to say my thoughts on that performance because in this day and age with what we know about Kevin Spacey, that's no longer appropriate. But a lot of people walked out of that saying, really? They just had Spacey kind of do what Gene Hackman had already done? Superman's got a huge rogues gallery. They couldn't bring in anyone else? That's why I was so happy with Man of Steel when they brought in General Zod. I'm like, yes, good. You're not relying on Luthor yet. Smart move. And then we got Jesse Eisenberg, and I basically slammed my head against the wall. So, unfortunately, Season 5 has shown that there's a lot of problems with this show. There's a lot of cracks. There's a lot of issues with the writing. There's a lot of problems with direction. But these are not correct. These are not uncorrectable. These can be fixed. This is the show can go back to the way it used to be. It can be better. We are not past the point of no return yet. I am really hoping that they realize these flaws with season 5 and they work hard to go in a better direction. I think it's possible. I think they can do it. But if they don't, I don't see the show lasting another season beyond next.
So, let me ask you this. Superman and Lois are getting their own TV series. They've got a 6th season of Supergirl here. How soon do you think before we get Darkseid?
You know what? It wouldn't surprise me if they're going to wait until after what we get the Snyder cut of Justice League and they see how people react to that.
Maybe we don't get Darkseid initially. Maybe we get Big Bertha.
You know what? I would not mind getting Big Bertha and... Oh, God. What's...
Furies.
No, not the Furies. Big Bertha's husband. He's a fellow Justice League member.
Oh, Mr. Miracle.
Thank you. For some reason, I keep wanting to say Mr. Fantastic. I'm like, no, that's Marvel.
Yeah, you know what? Now that you mention it, I would actually love a season that's dedicated to just Mr. Miracle, Big Bertha, and the Furies.
That would be good. I would like, and you're absolutely right. They cannot rush into Darkseid. I would like them to build it up. Let's get a season, maybe Superman, maybe Supergirl. I don't know, but let's do something with Apocalypse starting to, and the problems with Apocalypse starting to come to Earth. Build up Darkseid, and get better CGI for Steppenwolf.
Yeah. All right, Alexis, we're going to call it a night here. We've been at this for almost 2 hours. We covered 5 seasons of Supergirl in that time. A lot of stuff we missed, a lot of stuff we didn't really dig into, but I think we got an overview. And you got the, like I said, season 5 was, if we had been doing ongoing reviews, I don't know how much more I would have been able to say about season 5 anyway, even if I started to dig into it, other than going through each individual character like we do in some of these TV parties. Because, like I said, it just this thing was a turducken, and it hadn't been a turducken up to this point. Supergirl had been a lean piece of prime beef, and then suddenly they were like, all the things! I'm like, all right, slow the fuck down, please.
Yeah, it's like, just because we're getting bigger with the Arrowverse, we have Crisis on Infinite Earths, yeah, we're going to get another crossover event with Apocalypse.
I wouldn't mind that. I would love to see them do a giant CW crossover event that deals with Apocalypse. But I think in the meantime, you could dedicate an entire season of Supergirl to Mr. Miracle, Big Bertha, and the Furies, and I think that's a good lead-in to a crossover event. So, just like Elseworlds was the lead-in to Crisis on Infinite Earths, and they were doing a lot of that with Flash and Arrow, which you hadn't watched them, but they seeded a lot of Elseworlds and then eventually Crisis in Flash. And they seeded more at the end of Arrow to where it was directly tied in once they knew the direction they were going. So, hopefully once they if not season 6, if they're renewed for season 7 and 8, I'm hoping by then we start to see the aforementioned Apocalypse characters leading into a Darkseid war. No baby Darkseid, though. No baby Darkseid. Call it the Darkseid war, but no baby Darkseid.
It wouldn't surprise me if they decide, if the Superman Lois Lane show actually does take off, and this is going to be the characters we have established in the Supergirl series. Excuse me. It wouldn't surprise me if they decide to cancel Supergirl and just make Melissa, how do you pronounce her last name?
I'm going with Benoist.
Benoist. It wouldn't surprise me if they make Melissa Benoist a reoccurring character on that show and essentially condense Superman and Supergirl into one series.
Just a sneak peek into next week's show. We're going to talk about Batwoman a week from tonight. We'll do a comic and then we'll do the show. But Ruby Rose is leaving the show, and they got to get a new character. It's no longer going to be Kate Kane. Batwoman's going to have a whole new identity. Here's the thing: if they do this, if they do some iteration of a Darkseid war, we need to see whatever version of Batwoman there is going to be on the Mobius chair. We need this. We need this, Alexis Hejna. We need Batwoman sitting on the Mobius chair?
I have to do a little more research because I am very unfamiliar with Batwoman with other characters. We did a source material of Batwoman. Was it last year or the year before last?
It was whenever year Elseworlds came out.
I can't even remember.
It was 2018.
Okay, thank you. And we reviewed that, and that was Kate Cannon. We talked a lot about that character, and actually I remember discussing a lot about how her character is motivated and shaped by the don't ask, don't tell law.
Right.
That was in effect when her character was established. I do not know a lot about other women who have taken over the role of Batwoman in the comics, if that even has been a thing.
Well, you've got a whole week to find out, because you're my animation specialist. You're my animation specialist and my teen and all things in between expert. Plugs. So,
You better hope that convention in Orlando never opens up, because I swear to God.
The line forms to the left, honey. Tomorrow.
Trust me, I will be. Trust me, I am waiting for Pat and Robert and Jesse and Jason and Sean and all of them to say, okay, we want you to punch him, and here's where you're going to get punched. And I just be like, okay, so the punch here is from Jesse, pow, and this one in your lower gut is from Pat.
No, Jesse's already called kicking me in the balls.
I don't get to kick you in the balls on his behalf.
Tomorrow, on the Metal Hammer of Doom, we'll be reviewing the new Lamb of God album, self-titled Lamb of God. And then Thursday, in theory, we will be doing an on-trial for the 1984 Heather Slater Supergirl, which will be fun. The aforementioned...
Oh, sorry, I can't see anything. I just got to go, ugh.
The aforementioned Batwoman will be the following week. We'll be doing Batwoman Volume 1 from the Rebirth iteration, the many arms of death. And then we'll be doing the season review of Batwoman. Won't be as long as this one. It'll be a little bit different because it's only the one season we have to go through, so we'll go back to the usual style of doing this where we kind of break things down character by character. And then on July 1st, myself and Jesse Starcher will be reviewing the new Mushroom Head, A Wonderful Life. And it is a wonderful life. I don't know, what are you complaining about? Quit crying, all you people. Life ain't so bad. And if you've enjoyed Alexis on this run of source material lives, as we've been doing, then you'll get to hear one more time. We'll be doing the 6-issue limited series Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy from 2019. And then David Wright and I will be reviewing Harley Quinn Season 2 from DC Universe. And then Alexis Hejna is back, and better than ever, as we review the 10-episode, 3 shorts per episode, so it's 30 shorts in all, Season 1 of Looney Tunes, which is an HBO Max exclusive.
I had to beg him to let me review this, folks.
I wouldn't say you had to beg. You can also check out our review of Supergirl being super. We have also threw Artemis Fowl over the pinball machine and had our way with it. That is to say, we reviewed the thing and said we hated it. But if you want to hear how much we hated it, you should check out the review. We reviewed Backlash, the greatest wrestling match in the history of humankind. Termion Catalot, and that's all she wrote there in them there pages. All right, tell them where they can buy your stuff.
My stuff, huh? Yep, Honeysuckle Rose Creations is hopefully going back on the road here pretty soon. We are going to be, fingers crossed, making an appearance at Cape Girardeau and Cape Comic-Con here in less than 3 weeks. This is my first convention since November. I have been off the road that long. I think I'm surprised my husband hasn't killed me yet for being around the house this much. Of course, you can always find our stuff on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. We just uploaded a ton of brand new products. So happy. I'm always designing, always making new stuff, because if I don't make something new at least once a week, I get itchy. You can always read up our follow-ups on Facebook, Instagram, and Under Duress Twitter. We will be providing updates on which shows we will be attending, which ones have been canceled. We just got notice today, Crypticon, the horror show here in Kansas City. We always love doing that one, and unfortunately, it has been postponed until 2021. Unfortunately, folks, at this point, there is nothing we can do but just wait and see how things go with COVID. Of course, all of you out there who are dealing with this pandemic, our thoughts and prayers are with you. Wash your hands. You know we love you.
All right.
But again, Oh, go ahead. I'm done.
sorry. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Alexis, for joining me on this TV party tonight. We don't do whole series reviews all that often because, they tend to be rush jobs like kind of this one was. But it was still something I wanted to do, and I'm glad we did it, and I think we had a pretty good conversation. So next week, Batwoman. Until then, be well, be safe, and behave.